Welcome to the Martin Bailey Photography Podcast. It's March 15, 2023, and this is episode 807. Wow, okay, so it's now the middle of March, and I am just sitting down to write the manuscript for this podcast and blog post, having completed the second wildlife tour and having spent 2 weeks at home trying to catch my breath. The tours were all amazing and produced a bumper crop of images that still have my head spinning. Now I'll try and cast my mind back 5 weeks and fill you in on our antics as we completed the first of the 2 Japan Winter Wildlife Tours. And as usual, we'll end this final episode of this series with some comments from each of the participants. My apologies if you can hear a hard drive crunching in the background again. I've figured out my off-site cloud backup strategy and I have to do something with some urgency. I'll fill you in on that in a few weeks when I've got it all sorted, but for now, I apologise if you can hear that crunching away. Luckily, I selected the 10 images that I want to talk about today before I left, so I won't have to rely too much on my memory. We'll pick up the trail on February the 6th as we set out to photograph the sea eagles from the fishing port at Raosu for the second time. The Steller's sea eagle is a magnificent bird, with a wingspan of up to 2.5 meters. It's sometimes difficult to gauge their size when you see them sitting around, but with their wings spread in flight, their heads always look so small compared to their body and wings. Light is often low close to dawn, and I keep my eye on the combination of aperture, shutter speed and ISO to get the cleanest image while freezing the motion, assuming I'm not playing with panning. By the time I shot this, I had managed to get my aperture down to f10 for 1,000th of a second shutter speed, which still required my ISO to be set at 3200, but that's fine, as I expose to the right, so increasing the ISO helps me to keep grain out of my photos. At the end of the second morning's eagle shoot, we sailed over to the quay wall and photographed the eagles on it. Here we see a white-tailed eagle kicking up snow as it landed. I enjoy photos when the animal is kicking up something, be it a zebra kicking up dust in Namibia or snow from the talons of these awesome sea eagles. It adds a nice additional element of interest. Also note how I framed this with the eagle on the far right of the frame. This is sometimes I do out of necessity to avoid something to the side of the main subject, but in this case, if I recall, there was nothing to the right of this eagle. Rather, I simply wanted to give him space in front so that he had somewhere to go visually. In contrast, in this next photo, see how the bird is on the right side of the frame, creating drama as the bird is positioned to quickly leave the frame. This is honestly probably just more that I wasn't quick enough to frame the bird in the middle or the left of the frame. But as the fish in the eagle's talons is now pretty much central in the frame, I think it works, and therefore isn't something that I will be beating myself up over. In the afternoon on this day, we drove down to the Nordske Peninsula again, hoping to get some fox, and we were lucky on this day to see a fox that proceeded to curl up on some fishing nets for a sleep. I have another shot where he has his eyes open looking back at us, but I prefer this one of him sleeping. I was using my 100 to 500mm RF lens for this, with the 1.4 times extender fitted for a focal length of 700mm. This next image is one of my favourites from the trip. As we stopped to use the facilities at the Nordske Nature Centre, there was an ezo deer on top of a mound of dirt beside the building. So we were looking up at him as we shot this photograph, with him looking so proud, almost regal. As an added bonus, there was pink in the sky as the sun neared the horizon towards the end of the day, but a bank of clouds is registering as a band of grey behind the stag's antlers. The following morning, for the first time in several years, we had sea ice in the Nemuro Strait, so we sailed a while to photograph the eagles with the ice. First, here is a shot of a Steller sea eagle almost hovering over the sea ice as though he's trying to figure out what to make of the ice. The sky also had a subtle pink tint as the sunrise faded to regular daylight. In this next image you can see a Steller sea eagle swooping down to catch a fish that we'd thrown into the sea, with its talons outstretched and a pensive look. This is straight out of the camera with no cropping. I occasionally do crop my images, but more often than not they are not cropped or only very, very slightly cropped, as I want to maintain as much resolution in my images as possible. Of course, zooming in this tightly on a bird like this in flight means that I do lose shots because I clip the wings, but I would prefer to miss some and get other shots with really tight framing like this. I found this final eagle shot for today somewhat amusing, as the fish in the mouth of the eagle seems to be looking back at us. This is also not cropped. I was at 500mm for this shot, so you can appreciate that we were probably not much more than 10 meters away from the eagle. Although I don't really miss the sea ice, because we have such fun and get great shots photographing the eagles taking their fish from the open water, I have to admit it was nice to get some ice at the end of this first trip. This is the last image that I wanted to share of the sea eagles. After that, we headed around the base of the Shiritoko Peninsula on our way to Utoro for one last night in a great hotel. Still on the way, we stopped for our usual ICM or intentional camera movement shot, and here you can see the birch trees with darker trees in the background, which has become my preferred side of the road. The opposite side of the road has white on white, which is still nice, but the dark background seems to work better for me now. Because I didn't attach a neutral density filter to my 24 to 105mm lens, I stopped down my aperture to f22 and my shutter speed was at a 30th of a second at ISO 100. This was just right to stop the snow from becoming overexposed. I quickly moved the camera down, being careful to keep it square to the scene, and released the shutter just as the snow enters the frame at the bottom. It's a bit tricky at first, but it doesn't take long to get something like what I've shared here. Finally, to finish, we have a shot of the top of the Oshin Koshin Falls. The right side of the falls was flowing, and the left side was completely frozen, so I went in tight and just shot these details. I did use a neutral density filter for this shot, a 6-stop ND if I recall. Gave me a half a second exposure at ISO 100 with an aperture of f16. Okay, so that's all of the photos that I had to share over these 3 parts. As usual, we did a recording on the bus the following morning, so I'll insert that audio for you now to hear what the group said about the trip. So here we are at the end of the first of the 2 wildlife trips, first in 3 years, thanks to the pandemic. and we're about to go around the bus and get a comment from each of the guests. So, Stephen, would you like to say a few words?
Hi, I'm Stephen from England. Amazing trip. Particularly enjoyed the eagles on the sea ice. The light was just right and they were beautiful. But I mean, the other highlights, the monkeys and the cranes, were also equally as stunning. Brilliant trip, highly recommended.
Oh, thank you, Steve. Vivian, do you want to say something?
Hi, my name is Vivian. I'm from the United States. The highlights of the trip are eagles on the ice. I've never seen something like that. It was just spectacular. And also the eagles on the sea, to see them in their environment, it was just awesome. Amazing trip. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Jen?
Hi, this is Jane from California. I enjoyed almost everything from snow monkeys and the cranes and the sea eagles. Just everything just perfect. I love it. Highly recommend it.
Oh, thank you. Ming?
Hi, I'm Ming from Singapore. It's fun. The sea eagles on ice on sunrise is beautiful. Thanks for organizing. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. Peter, did you want to say
Yeah.
anything?
Hello, it's Peter from the UK. Very well organised trip. We saw a whole range of wildlife and had a great insight into Japanese culture, culminating in the eagles on the sea ice and a wonderful hotel looking out over the sea.
Excellent. Thank you. Lynn?
Lynn from England, UK. It's been a wonderful tour. I particularly enjoyed the snow monkeys. The Hooper Swans were a delight to watch, and also the Stella Eagles on the snow. Been a wonderful tour, and thank you very much to everybody.
Oh, thank you.
Mian from Singapore. Onsen every night was great. And the Stella Eagles on the sea eye was really good. Yeah, thank you.
Excellent. Ken?
Hi, Ken from Indianapolis. Had a great trip, a lot of great photography as expected. I'd say a couple surprises was the cranes were much more graceful than I thought and really enjoyed shooting them. And then it turned out to be as much of a cultural experience. Going to small hotels and eating Japanese food, different places every time. I really enjoyed that. And logistically, it was a pretty complex trip, and it went off flawlessly with no delays or anything. So kudos to Martin and Waco. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jeanette from the UK. I've been wanting to do this trip for several years now, and finally my dream came true. I adored the snow monkeys, the whooper swans, and also the sea eagles, especially on the snow ice. A big highlight for me was also finally finding the red fox and getting some really nice images of him. All in all, one word, fabulous.
Oh, thank you very much.
My name is Ware, and I am from Salt Spring Island in British Columbia, Canada. And as an avid birder, I was super excited to get 24 new birds, including I can't tell you how many lifelong list birds. A great trip.
Excellent. Let's come across to Keisha.
Hi, I'm Keisha, and also from Salt Spring Island, British Columbia. This trip fully met my expectations, and plus some beyond that. I know Martin was very helpful with discussing settings, especially to get no noise on high ISO. That's something that a lot of photography tour group leaders don't do. So I found it educational also. I would love to do another workshop with Martin, hopefully the landscape one.
Excellent. We'd love to see. Mike.
Well, hello again. This is Mike from the US. All I can say is anybody that is interested in Japanese culture and wildlife, this trip is a must. It's a perfect blend of two, but obviously with the concentration on the wildlife. And I'll come again.
It will be always a pleasure to see you, mate. Reiko, do you want to say a few words?
Yes, good. This is Reiko from Japan, and thank you very much for your cooperation and kindness. And this is my first time trip to Hokkaido in the season. I hope you have a wonderful time, extra days in Japan. Arigato, sayonara.
Okay, thank you. Okay, folks, let's finish with a round of applause for our driver here for keeping us safe. So thank you, Tobinai-san. Okay, thank you very much.
Especially now that I've travelled with another group who were equally as awesome. It was really nice to hear the voices from the first group again. Thanks to everyone for your kind comments. I hope to travel with you again at some point. So we'll wrap it up there for this episode and the series. Our 2024 tours are filling quickly, so if you'd like to join us, please check out the tour page and book sooner rather than later to avoid disappointment. If you have any questions about our tours, please drop me a line with the contact form at martinbaileyphotography.com or type in mbp.ac/contact into the browser address bar. Thanks very much for listening today. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider supporting us on Patreon, details of which you can find at mbp.ac/Patreon. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn, and links to everything that I'm up to are at martinbaileyphotography.com, so do drop by and take a look. I'll be back next week with another episode, but in the meantime, you take care and have a great week, whatever you're doing. Bye bye.